Hello and welcome to our Revealed Reality Bible Study series on the Gospel of John. This is part 5 of the series. I am Reverend Art B. Carter Jr. and I will serve as your host and facilitator. Now, if you have not already done so, I need you to run over to my website at www.wtAsInTomFO.biz, B-I-Z, www.wtfo.biz. Click on the Revealed Reality Bible Study link on the bottom left-hand corner of that home page, and it will take you to the resource page for this study. On that page, you will be able to access the PDF files that accompany each lesson. You can view it right there online. You can download it. You can print it out. Do whatever you want with it. All right. I just hope it blesses you. You can also view the video files that accompany each lesson in the study. All right. Let's get to it. Let's start off with a review. We recalled on last week that we covered John chapter 1 verses 1 through 8. Let's refresh our memory. In the beginning, it says, the Word already existed. We've already gone through, John is referring to Jesus, the Logos, or the Word of God. In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word, Jesus, the Logos, gave life to everything that was created, and his life, Jesus' life, brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, says verse 5, and the darkness can never extinguish it. God sent a man named John the Baptist to tell about the light so that everyone might believe because of John's testimony. John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about the light. So what does this mean? In the verses above, we recalled that we were introduced to John the Baptist, whose ministry preceded that of Jesus. And some people may not know it, and many people just don't want to accept, that at one time, the ministry of John the Baptist far exceeded that of Jesus. John had been preaching and ministering for years when Jesus came onto the scene. We recall that some of John's disciples even were somewhat offended when Jesus came along ministering, because they felt that their master, their teacher, John the Baptist, was the leader and was the greatest. Jesus even humbled himself to be baptized by John the Baptist, understanding John's important role regarding preparing Jesus, at least through baptism, and telling the people about him, preparing Jesus for his ministry. Excuse me. Again, John's ministry began before Jesus. John probably had thousands of followers. We know they followed him to the middle of the Judean desert or Galilean desert to be baptized by him. They flocked to him and drove so much that he caught the attention of Romans. They thought that he was some type of political organizer, organizing these thousands of people against the Roman government. And the texts of the Gospels bear me out on this. John was killed for two reasons, one spiritual and one political. On the political side, I've already said, the Romans got rid of him because he seemed to be a troublemaker or a potential troublemaker. Anytime you gather thousands of people and you had not been sanctioned by the Roman machine, all right, as it were, then you were seen as some type of agitator, some type of person who was trying to stir up trouble. So for political reasons, he was executed. But we also know, and the text bears me out, he was also executed for spiritual reasons. His Herod, this king, all right, was part Jewish, which meant he was expected to follow Jewish customs. Well, the Jewish custom said that it was unlawful to marry a relative, whether by blood or whether you were connected through marriage. He actually married his brother's wife. And the text says John called him out on it. And Herod's wife, all right, got mad. And she used the opportunity of a dinner at the palace or whatnot, in which her daughter danced, and the king says, "I'll give you whatever you want. You have pleased me so much. I'll give you whatever you want, up to half my kingdom." She ran back to her mama. "Mama, he said he'll give me whatever I want." And she said, "I'll tell you what. Tell him you want the head of John the Baptist on a platter." She wanted to get rid of that troublemaker, because he was bringing spiritual conviction to her. So we know that he ultimately was executed. And after John was executed, many of John's disciples then began to follow Jesus. So Jesus experienced, so the text suggests, an immediate swell in his followers. Now, come on. Now, you know, everybody that comes to you for help or to get a blessing, they don't intend to be a follower, right? They don't mean to be with you with a long haul. I'm here right now up in your face because I'm trying to get something from you. That doesn't mean I disrespect you or discount. I'm here because I do believe you can help me, but I ain't trying to be no long haul follower. You know, I ain't no ride or die. But Jesus immediately gained some additional ride and die folk after John's execution, which then helped to swell the ranks of Jesus' extended ministry, though the gospel texts themselves mostly focus on his inner circle of leaders, also known as the 12 disciples. Let's go back to John. So John had a wonderful ministry, but before he was killed, he knew his place. He knew what he was called to do, and he was okay with that. Even though his ministry was powerful in and of its own self, he understood, I'm not called to the number one position. I'm called to the number two position. That doesn't mean the number one is better and the number two is worse. It means that we all have a calling, and we got to know our calling. He understood, I've got a calling. I'm a powerful preacher in my own right. I've converted thousands. So I ain't no joke. I ain't no random. But I do understand my purpose. My goal is to prepare the way for the one who will occupy the number one spot. And he was okay with that. So much to the point that Jesus, understanding John's combination of gifts and power and humility and purpose, he even said in Luke 7:28, I believe, there's not been a man born to woman greater than John the Baptist. And he was talking in reference to John was dynamic. He was anointed, but he knew his place. And as being called to the number two spot to prepare the way for the one who would operate the number one spot, he didn't get the big head. He didn't get jealous. He didn't walk in envy and backbiting as so many leaders do today. I mean, I had an armor bearer too who, you know, they couldn't accept after a while their role as armor bearer, and they thought that they could pastor the church better than me, you know, and my thing was, maybe you can, but I have the appointment. It's hanging on my wall. You're looking at it, right? And so that means I'm called and appointed to the number one spot. Can't be but one pastor in the local AME church. But if you would fulfill your calling as the one who assists, knowing that your assistant is so important that your pastor could not minister or function on the level that our pastor without your assistance. Once they came to that understanding, then they didn't have no problem with falling back and fulfilling their own calling. Well, we're going to stop right there, but I promise you we will be right back.